Good news, kiddos. Just because I'm not with you today doesn't mean we can't do notes together. You should have a set of 4-2 comparing and ordering fractions notes in front of you. We're going to go through these today, and just like if we were in class, as I write things down and fill in, you're going to do the same thing on your paper. Now this is your lesson for today, so if there's anything that you don't understand as I go through it, you are more than welcome to pause and rewind the video and watch it as many times as you need to. So, like I said, our goal today is to be able to compare and to order fractions. So put them in order either from least to greatest or greatest to least. And I've got a little note at the top of your paper. Read it along with me. It says one way to compare or order fractions is to write them with the same denominator. We've learned on Friday that we can change fractions, keeping them the same amount but calling them a different name. That means turning them into an equivalent fraction. So if we are able to get our fractions with the same denominator, that makes it a lot easier for us to look at them and decide what's bigger and what's smaller. And the good news is we want to find the least common denominator, or the smallest common denominator, which you already know how to do. It is the very same process as finding the least common multiple of the denominators. So we sometimes call it LCD for least common denominator, but it really just means least common multiple of the numbers. So let's look at our problem. We're going to try to list these 4 fractions in order from greatest to least. So step number 1 says that we've got to find the least common multiple of the denominators. We're looking at 6, at 12, at 9, and at 3. So I've actually already done the work for you. I've got my list of multiples of 6. I've got my list of multiples for 12, for 9, and for 3. And I want you to scan through there and see if you can find the lowest one or the lowest multiple they have in common. And as I look, I see that the lowest one that they have in common is this 36 right here. It's the first one that is in the list of all 4 of those numbers. The first one that's a multiple of all 4 of those numbers. So my least common multiple of my denominators is 36. Therefore, our least common denominator is going to be 36. So what does that mean? That means that we're going to change our fractions into equivalent fractions that have 36 as their denominator. We learned on Friday we can do that by looking how 6 turns into 36, and we do that by multiplying by 6. And in a fraction, whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do the very same thing to the top. So my 1/6 turns into 6/36. My 7/12, how do I turn 12 into 36? Well, hopefully you're saying that we multiply by 3, therefore we have to multiply the top by 3. So 7/12 is the same as 21/36. 5/9 turn it into 36. I multiply the 9 times 4, therefore I multiply the 5 times 4. And my new equivalent fraction is 20/36. And then the last one, 2/3, 3 times 12 is 36. So therefore on top, 2 times 12 is 24. So just to recap, I looked at my 4 fractions that we started with at the top. I wanted to find a common denominator that I could turn them all into. So I thought about all of their multiples and listed them out. We won't always have to list them out, but for now we are, and found that 36 was the lowest one they had in common, the least common denominator. Once I found my least common denominator, I turned them all into that denominator, turned them all into 36. So now that we have them all into 36, it's easy to look at them and compare 6/36, 21/36, 20/36, and 24/36, and find the one that is the greatest of all those. And hopefully you are thinking that 24/36 is the largest of all of them. So I'm going to put a G there and show that I am writing them from greatest to least. So after the 24/36, the next one in line would be the 21/36. After that would be the 20/36. And the least one, or the lowest one, would be the 6/36. We are almost there. Our goal was to get our original 4 fractions in order from greatest to least. So we've got equivalent fractions in order from greatest to least, but I now need to turn them back into their original form. So when I go to the bottom, I'm just going to show myself that 24/36 really started out as 2/3. So 2/3 is the largest of those 4 original fractions. And then 21/36, he started out as 7/12. Look up here. My 20/36 started out as 5/9. And my 6/36 started out as 1/6. So that allowed me to put my original 4 fractions. They were listed at the top of our paper: 1/6, 7/12, 5/9, and 2/3 into greatest to least order. I ended up with 2/3, 7/12, 5/9, and 1/6. Right now, I want you to pause the video, take your notes that you filled out up to the teacher, and show him or her that you've got them all filled out accurately. And you will get a worksheet on comparing fractions. I'm going to help you get started on that. So go ahead and pause the video and come back and play once you have your worksheet. Okay, we're ready to get started on comparing fractions on our worksheet. There is an example up here that I'm going to do with you, and you're going to try the rest on your own. I understand that it is already done, but I want to show you the work that I expect to see on your paper for all the rest of the problems. So if you remember on our notes, when we had 2 fractions, we wrote them vertically. That means I put my 1/6 there and my 7/10 there. And that way it'll allow me to write an equivalent fraction beside each of my original fractions. As you look at those 2 denominators, we've got a 6 and we've got a 10. And we've got to find the lowest common multiple of 6 and 10, or the least common denominator that we can find. As I'm thinking through my multiples of 10, 10, 20, 30, oh, it seems like we just hit one, 30. 30 is the lowest multiple that 6 and 10 have in common. So I'm going to change both of my fractions into 30ths. I turn my 1/6 into 30ths by multiplying by 5 on the bottom. Therefore, got to do the very same thing to the top. So 1/6 is the same as 5/30ths. For my 7/10, I turn 10 into 30 by multiplying by 3. Therefore, on the top, my 7 turns into 21. So it is obvious now to see that 5/30ths is a whole lot smaller than 21/30ths. So therefore, 1/6 is less than 7/10. We've done a couple examples together now, so I want you to take the time to work through the rest of this worksheet, putting either a greater than, a less than, or an equal sign in between your fractions. Don't you dare just write one in. You need to show me your work of finding an equivalent fraction with common denominators to prove it to me which one is the larger fraction. When you get finished with all, let's see, there are 8 of them, with all 8 problems, then take it back up to the teacher and get it checked. And they'll have one more assignment for you to try when you're done.